On June 5, 2002, a brick facade wall on Pine Street in downtown Jamestown began to collapse from a building then owned by the Civic Center Development Corporation. As the E.E. Austin construction crew removed the bricks, suddenly words and faces were looking back at them from the wood sheathing behind the brick facade. When the crew chief saw the word Cody, he called the Arts Council staff to find out what to do. Research by staff at the Fenton Historical Society indicated that the words they saw were part of a billboard from an 1878 performance by Buffalo Bill Cody and his combination theater troupe. The billboard had been put up to advertise the show, May Cody or Lost in One, which was presented on March 14, 1878 in the original Allen Opera House, the site of today's Reg Linné Civic Center. The billboard was made up of over 24 sheets of paper glued to the wood sheathing of what was then a new building. Shortly after that, the brick facade went up, covering and protecting the paper billboard for 124 years, until the collapse of the bricks. As the billboard emerged from behind the bricks, some of the pieces of the fragile paper were caught by the wind and began coming off the wall. These were collected by workmen and volunteers. Some sections remained glued to the wall. The question was how to get those pieces off the wall. Several phone calls led to the School of Art Conservation at the State University of New York College at Buffalo. A graduate of that program, Laura Schell, came to Jamestown for emergency salvaging of the paper still on the wall.
As an adhesive through the tissue paper. So what I'm doing is I'm attaching the facing to the poster beneath it. This adhesive is water soluble, however, it gels in the presence of hot water or steam. And what I will be doing as soon as I'm done attaching the facing to the poster is I'll be taking that little steamer, and the steam will do two things. It'll help to release the paper from the wood, and it will also further it'll make the bond between the poster and the Japanese tissue stronger than the bond that's between the poster and the wood. And this is coming off just beautifully. Beautifully. Look at that. Look at that. Oh my. Oh, you just can't ask for better than that.
Yeah. It's been 20 minutes talking about Buffalo Bill. Still losing now. Yeah, I had a color low res.
Do you have any idea how well this poster will look after it's... Would you take any guesses at how well it'll look?
I think it would look really striking. I think even having these seams like mended together, when it was all in one, when it all, becomes one cohesive image, I think it would be really a really striking. It would never look new again.
No.
It won't. But this piece, it's got a lot of life left into it. I mean, it does. It's I think this could look pretty good again.
Great.
Okay. All right, here we go. You're Jesse, right?
Yes, I'm Jesse.
Okay, I'm Pat.
Hi.
Here we go. Jesse's gonna help with the handoff here. Okay.
Watch, there's a piece here that's black.
Only one section of the 26-foot-long billboard remained stuck to the wall so that we could see the full image. It was a frontiersman with the word Chashasha Opjeo written at the bottom. At the time, we did not know who this was or what the word meant. Further research would reveal his story. To help determine the significance of this discovery, various experts were contacted, including Wes Cowan, American expert from the Antiques Roadshow. Mr. Cowan verified that the discovery was historically important. Buffalo Bill was one of the first people to use billboard advertising. This particular billboard was comprised of over 24 matched prints. It was struck from hand-cut wood blocks, each measuring approximately 38 inches by 26 inches. When put up in the correct order, those 24 individual prints formed a mural about 26 feet long and 10 feet high. Among the factors that made the piece remarkable was the high quality of the artwork and craftsmanship of the people who cut the printing blocks. As the fragments were carefully studied, details emerged, such as 2 names carved into a bush in the corner of one panel, perhaps the craftsman who actually made the wood blocks from which the billboard was printed. Until the funding could be found to do the conservation work, the hundreds of pieces of what is likely the oldest billboard in the country were safely stored in a local archive. By 2003, thanks to a major donation from Lamar Outdoor Advertising, conservation work began on one section of the billboard. The life-size image of a star of the show, John Y. Nelson, known among the Lakota as Chashasha Opaheo, was the only section that had remained on the wall, torn into pieces by the shrinking of the boards on which it was mounted. However, the overall image was mostly intact. The 17 torn pieces of this panel were conserved and reassembled by Mrs. Shell, and the result unveiled in the Civic Center in February of 2006. In honor of the discovery of this image of their ancestor, several direct Lakota descendants of John Y. Nelson attended the event. As funding was found through the federal Save America's Treasures program and a number of individual, foundation, and corporate sources, conservation work progressed on the rest of the billboard. The conservation process included surface treatment to remove dirt and grit, washing to remove acid from the paper. Much of the acid had been absorbed from the wood on which the paper had been mounted for all those years. Attaching the hundreds of fragments to Japanese tissue to stabilize the paper. Trimming the edges of each piece so they could be reassembled. Attaching each section of the billboard to a tie-core panel. Light painting to fill in the spaces where pieces were missing. By spring 2007, the hundreds of torn and fragile pieces of the billboard had been put back together like a giant jigsaw puzzle. The panels that comprised the billboard were carefully framed and prepared for installation. The fully conserved 1878 Buffalo Bill billboard was unveiled on the stage of the Reg Lene Civic Center in June 2007, almost 5 years to the day since it was first discovered.
Ladies and gentlemen, the 1878 Buffalo Bill Cody Billboard.
The billboard is now installed on the wall of the inner lobby of the Reg Linné Civic Center. It can be viewed from below, the way a billboard would be seen as audiences leave the theater. For a closer, more direct view, it can be seen from the mezzanine, where a small exhibit is available telling the story of the discovery of this recognized national treasure.